Olá, começa agora o STJ Entrevista, um programa do Superior Tribunal de Justiça. E aqui recebemos autoridades e especialistas para falar sobre temas relevantes, tanto nas discussões jurídicas e acadêmicas, quanto no dia a dia da população. E no programa de hoje vamos abordar como o racismo se manifesta na África do Sul e qual o papel do sistema de justiça sul-africano para coibir ações discriminatórias. Para conversar conosco sobre esse assunto, convidamos o ministro Steven Majiedt, que integra a Corte Constitucional da República da África do Sul e tem uma trajetória jurídica focada principalmente na defesa dos invisibilizados e também marcada pela atuação na organização das primeiras eleições democráticas sul-africanas após o regime do Apartheid. Vamos conferir como foi essa entrevista. Your Honor, it's a great pleasure to have you here on our program, STJ Entrevista. Thank you a lot.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
When we talk about South Africa, it is impossible not to mention apartheid and the fight against that regime led by Nelson Mandela. Despite Mandela's legacy, numerous cases of racism still shock the world. So, are the effects of apartheid still felt in South Africa? And if so, how does the South African legal system address this reality?
Yes, indeed. There are many cases of racism that still occur in South Africa. And it's going to take a long time before we eliminate it. Mm-hmm. But we must work on it to address it so that it can become less and less. And the reason for that is, remember, people take long to change, especially those who were privileged, white people under apartheid. And so they bring up their children and their grandchildren in the belief that they are racially superior, although they know that that is not true. But we have come a long way since 1994, since Mr. Mandela became president, and we have a long way to go still. So there are many instances of racism. And the worst instances, of course, are instances of hate speech. And hate speech is a crime in South Africa, but not racism itself. Okay. The legal system addresses racism through the Constitution. The Constitution emphasizes as one of its founding values, in other words, one of the basic principles, right at the start of the Constitution is all people are equal and all people should have dignity. Because of apartheid, people were denied equality and they were denied dignity. Mm-hmm. So the Constitution says in its beginning, in the preamble, speak about equality and dignity, and then Section 9 of the Constitution has the Equality Clause. And the Equality Clause in Section 9.2 says the government must take active steps through legislation and policies to protect people from racism and from unfair discrimination based on race, and also to advance people. So we have legislation to protect people like the Hate Speech Act. Mm-hmm. We have the Employment Equity Act, which sets racial quotas and targets for people in the workplace. Mm-hmm. And we have the Black Economic Empowerment Act, which obliges companies to give preference to black suppliers when they procure goods, also to give preference to blacks when they do business. For example, they have to allocate 26% of shares to black individuals or black companies as a quota. So there are many laws that we use to implement affirmative action based on the Constitution, because the Constitution is the supreme law. Yeah. And if courts apply these laws very, very vigorously and strictly.
And moving forward with this issue, how is racial discrimination legally defined in South Africa? Are such actions treated as crimes? But you also answered this question. So I will pass to this one. Does the justice system in South Africa take an activist or minimalist approach to enforcing affirmative policies for racial equity?
Yes. Now, just to say that the definition of racism or racial discrimination is to be found in Section 9, the one I referred to. Section 9 sets out categories of discrimination. If you discriminate on one of those grounds, and race is one of them, race, sex, gender, age, and so forth, then it is presumed that it is unfair discrimination. So that is how racism is defined, that you discriminate solely on the basis of a person's race. And then the affirmative action policy becomes applicable. And our courts take an activist approach because of what I said before, because of our history. It was a very brutal history of not only apartheid. You must remember we had, like you, centuries of colonialism. But we were colonized not by the Portuguese, although they did come around South Africa. They didn't stay. The Dutch came to colonize us in 1652. And so for many centuries there were unfair discrimination based on race in a brutal, repressive way. Taken away the people's land, murdered people, alienated people, and that was under colonialism. What happened under apartheid was that it was institutionalized. In other words, it became, in the legal system, it became laws. They passed laws from birth to burial, from the cradle to the grave. Apartheid had laws deciding your birth. At birth, you are classified. White, brown people like me were classified colored, Indian, and then black, African. And depending on your classification, you had certain rights. Whites had all the rights. Colors and Indians had far less rights, but more than African people. African people had very little or no rights. And so that classification meant that when we correct things, it's done through the Constitution and those laws that I made mention of. And courts are very strict about enforcing them, as I've said, and we take an activist approach because it is the one thing that South Africa must get right is this thing of racism, of equality, and of dignity. So yes, we take an activist approach without forgetting that we are not the executive. We are not the ones governing the country. And without forgetting that we are not the legislature, we are not the ones who make the laws. But if the law is there, we will take an activist approach, especially our court, which is the highest court in the land.
And as well as being present in society, does inherent bias also appear in South African legal system?
Absolutely.
Oh,
yes. Inherent bias is part of a person's makeup. I mean, we are not robots. We grow up, we have views, our parents teach us certain things, right things, but also wrong things. And children get taught about discrimination. You see, under apartheid, the apartheid masters, the white rulers, were very clever and sly. They not only created the division between white and black, but among blacks they also created a further division. As I explained to you, brown people like me and Indians had more rights than African people. So you create a difference there because their philosophy was divide and rule, divide and conquer. And so you had this division where those people with no rights thought and grow up, understandably so, that those people have more rights than us, and so we must fight against them too. And so it created this division. And I just want to say, for example, in the Western Cape, which is our province, we call our states provinces. Our province and the far southern part of the country, there the Western Cape, during the time of the first elections when Mr. Mandela was elected, that province has a majority of brown people, what they call colored people. And they voted for the oppressor. They voted for the white party, for the National Party, not for the Liberation Party, for the African National Congress, Mr. Mandela's party. Why? Because they were told that the Western Cape had certain laws that said African people who had, as I say, had very little rights, couldn't go to the Western Cape. They were prohibited from going there, and they were prohibited from working there. So it had influx control, they controlled the influx of people, and it had job reservation. Jobs were reserved for colored people only. What was the rationale behind that? They wanted to create this gap so that colored people could go there because we are the majority in that province. They could live there, they could work there, and so on. So when 1994 came, with the democracy and the new government's elections, the oppressors, the National Party, the party of the previous regime, told colored people in particular, they called it black danger. They said, if you vote for the African National Congress, for Mr. Mandela's party, your jobs will be taken by African people. Your houses will be taken by African people. They will marry, in fact, they said they will rape your daughters. You know, that kind of black danger. Yeah. So people believed that and they voted for the oppressor. So you see they have succeeded to that extent in that divide and rule. So that colored people thought, well, we are better than these people, you know. And that is the danger. And so that is why we have to take an activist approach as courts. We do as much as we can within what the law allows us. Because remember, as I said, we don't govern the country. We are not the president or the cabinet. And we don't make the laws. We are not the legislature.
Yeah, and how can we eliminate it? I know it may sound idealistic, but I don't know. I think we really have to take a chance to eliminate this from ourselves. So how can we eliminate it?
It is very hard. As you say, it's a very difficult thing because remember, we are talking now not about decades. We are talking about centuries. And this is people from generation to generation, people are taught you are superior because you've got a white skin. You are more clever than the other one because you've got a white skin. You are better at sport because you have a white skin. And all of those things are myths. They're not true. So it's got to start in the home. It's got to start with the way we bring up our children. But that is a long-term project. So it's going to take generations. But we must start. We must do this. We must, like this symposium, as I said this morning, it's a wonderful idea of Chief Justice Benjamin and the STJ and the other partners. It's a wonderful idea because we must talk about it. You know, as I said earlier, if you deny, it's like having an addiction. You have an alcohol or a drug addiction. Now you say, no, I don't really have a drinking problem. I don't really have a drug problem. You're not going to solve that problem until you admit that there is a problem. So here in Brazil, the Chief Justice and also Chief Justice Barroso and others have done the right thing. They've taken the first step. They said, let us sit down and talk and agree, all of us, even they who as whites are benefiting from this racism. They said, let us sit down and admit we have a problem. How do we solve that problem? First, you must admit that there is a problem. Now in South Africa, as I said this morning, unfortunately, we haven't started talking yet, and race is going to be a problem for a long time because of our history. We have to start talking about that. But also white people who were privileged under apartheid. Now they are still privileged because economically the wealth lies with white people still. Not much has changed. And so white people have to sit down and say, we were privileged for centuries, and we must admit that we must share whatever this country has. And South Africa is a very rich country. Many years we had the most gold in the world. We still have the most platinum in the world, manganese, iron ore, rich resources. But people are not seeing the benefits. And so white people must sit down and say, like the Chief Justices have done, we admit that we are privileged and that we have been privileged for centuries. And we must do something, in a big way, share with others, but in a small way, start in my own home and teach my children and their children that we are all the same. God made us the same. We have different colors, but that's exciting. It means we look different. Imagine we all look the same. And so we've got to start small baby steps. And as I said this morning, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. And here the STJ has taken the lead to give that first step. And it's important that we continue with that steps and let people understand that South Africa is big enough and rich enough for everybody. And let those who have not want to have more and not share and say, let us accept that we have had far more than the others and let's share. I mean, just an example, people keep farms. We have people with huge farms, cattle farms and farms with crops and produce. They keep that farms from the next generation and next generation, next generation. And some of them have 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 large farms. But they don't want to share that with black people. So that mind shift must occur. We must work so that our people can start changing.
Exactly.
It's going to take a long time, but we've got to keep trying.
Yeah.
Won't happen in my lifetime, probably not in my children's lifetime or our daughter's lifetime. But maybe our grandchildren will be lucky enough to start seeing the change.
Yeah, that's our hope.
That's our hope.
So, any final thoughts, Your Honor?
All I can say is that, Brazil and South Africa are both parts of BRICS. Mm-hmm. It's a strong alliance. It's an alliance that the West doesn't like much, but it is there. And Brazil has been our friend for a long time. Yeah. The Brazilian people have been our allies and our friends during the fight against apartheid throughout. Mm-hmm. Through all the years, presidents have come and gone in this country, but they've always had the support of the Brazilian people. And we in South Africa appreciate that. And on a personal level, my wife and I love Brazil. We love the people. There are many people who look like us here. I mean, you look like us. And so we are all family, It's one big family. Mm-hmm. And the people are very friendly here. So we love Brazil. We love the Brazilian people. And we appreciate what they've done for us during the fight against apartheid, because all of these countries that supported us against the white oppressor helped us to overthrow apartheid. Every little bit helped. And so Brazil helped us to overthrow apartheid. And for that, we are very grateful. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you a lot. And once again, it was an honor to have you here on our program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Esse foi o STJ Entrevista. Muito obrigada pela sua companhia e aproveito para te convidar para conhecer o canal do STJ no YouTube, onde você encontra este e muitos outros conteúdos relevantes. Até a próxima. Tchau.